What's up, everybody? So I wanted to split up that last video because the discussions get really long. So this is going to be the live for the discussion of the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell murders. I do have more info on those murders, but I wanted to have an opportunity to get in the chat with you guys. We're going to wait for a few people to get in the chat. What's up, Nanz? What's going on? So I wanted to do a discussion video separate from the actual video, because people that want to hear about that case can go watch that video, and now we can talk about it on this live stream. So that was kind of the idea, because sometimes those get really, really long, and now we can have a chat about this, and the people that just wanted to watch the video can watch the video. So how are you guys doing? Are you going to join us on Sunday night, Nanz? Let me pull this up. We're going to have a live stream bonfire session on Sunday night. It'll be Sunday like 4:30 to 6, maybe 5 to 7, something like that, Hawaii time. So I have some people that are coming in from Hawaii that will be staying at my house this weekend. What's up, Kai? And they will be staying at the house. So I was going to be doing my bonfire sessions anyway, so I'm inviting them out. I got 4 people from Hawaii, from Oahu. Some kids of some families that I know. They're just on the mainland traveling. So I'm stoked about that. So make sure you guys come out to the bonfire. So yeah, the reason why I did that video was because it was just, what, 2 days ago? Let me see, June 1st. So 4 days ago, the psychologist for the court said that Lori Vallow wasn't competent. So essentially, this chick just has to stay in the mental ward until she's ready to stand trial. So if she can keep it up long enough, she'll just die in the psych ward, I'm guessing. It says that a licensed clinical psychologist met with Daybell in the Madison County Jail on at least 2 days, and according to court documents filed this week, determined that the defendant was not competent to proceed. Restorative treatment was recommended. Did you see the interview of Colby Ryan and Lori's brother's son that stayed with them before this all went down? I didn't watch it. There's an article about it. So, Lori... Colby Ryan interview. Wow. No, I didn't watch this. What a trip, man. Man, I didn't see it. I'm glad you said it. I'm going to watch it now. So Monica, what's up, Monica? I don't know if she needs meds. It says she needs restorative treatment. So I don't know if that means therapy or if that means she needs meds. It's so crazy to see her sitting. I see all these photos of her sitting in the courtroom in Kauai with Chad Daybell in the court behind her dressed in a suit. She's standing there on like desertion charges. Meanwhile, her kids are buried in a backyard somewhere. Ugh. So there is no insanity defense in Idaho. And it's very, very rare for a case to be paused and never resumed because of competency. It's only happened once in Bonneville County, over the past 2 decades. So in 20 years, it's happened once that someone never went to court because of their mental capacity. It says that Lori will likely be placed in a facility for treatment with the goal of getting her competent. If that happens, court proceedings resume as normal. If not, the pause extends another 180 days, 6 months. That's crazy. Ugh. So there's a timeline here that I found online that is incredible. It's crazy to read this timeline. I went through, did my own timeline for that video. I'd made my own notes. But listen to this. March 9th, 1990, Chad Daybell marries Tammy Daybell. In 1992, so 2 years later, Lori marries her first husband. His name is Nelson Yanes. He's the dude no one knew about for a while, but now we know who he is. And then 9 years later, Lori marries Joseph Ryan, amongst other men she had married, but now she marries Ryan. And then Tylee's born in 2002, but they divorce. She divorces the dad. And then Lori marries Charles in 2006. In 2007, her brother attacks her ex-husband with a taser, threatens to kill him, goes to jail. And then in 2011, Alex's probation ends earlier than it was supposed to. And in 2012, the autistic son JJ is born, and they adopt him. He's the son of Charles Vallow's nephew. So that her husband, Charles, is his great uncle. Does that make sense? So Lori and her husband, Charles, adopt his autistic great nephew. Yeah. In 2014, they officially adopt JJ. Move to Kauai with JJ and Tylee. And in 3 years, they move back home. And that's when that dude dies of a heart attack. I know it's a heart attack, and I know they ruled on it, but listen, when people start dying, like when you look back, when they start dying, and they're apparently like young, they're having heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots at young ages. Come on. It's got to be something. What's up, Tony? Tony Benson Mahuka with family and apartment. Well, tell them I said thank you. I probably know who they are. Raymond Roos says, how's that Hawaiian? Sup Hawaiian? Callie Connect says she's dragging her feet so she can see how Chad's trial goes, so her lawyers can strategize. You're probably right. Nanz calls them pure psychopaths, the true definition. Active Ambition. Aloha, brother Doug. Showing love again from Hilo. As always, love and appreciate your videos. Keep up the good work, brother. Stay safe. Man, I appreciate you. Always coming on and saying nice stuff like that. Aloha, friend. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming through. Kai Lyon says, personally, I think any human that violates kids or hurts kids despite your mental condition should be taken care of, apparently, if you know what I mean. I hear you, dude. You can't hurt kids. Come on, man. I don't know how crazy you are. Monica said she's big into numbers, too. I wonder if that's a thing, because she was a part of that cult. It was a Doomsday cult called Preparing a People, something like that. Monica says, even a sister too, I heard. Wow. That's crazy. Another one we're not hearing about. Nate Fleming, what's up, man? He says, ho, still live. Crip made it through the pulley. Let me see. Back with the super crew. Yeah. Randy Kalani Ariola. What's up, brother Doug? Good vibes from Maui. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate you, man. Checking in from Maui. I got Hilo check-ins, a couple Maui check-ins, Cali check-in. Ooh, from Waihe'e. Monica says, yes, when they were younger, only one there when the sister passed away. Was either Lori or Alex present? No way. Wow, what a trip. I didn't read any of that, and I was looking it up. So on this timeline, it says after JJ was born and they adopt him, they move to Kauai. And within 3 years, they're back in Arizona. This is when Joseph Ryan dies of a heart attack. So this is when Chad and Lori meet. They met at that convention. She falls in love with him. He's the author of these books that she loves. And almost right away, she disappears. Like 3 months after they meet, she disappears for 58 days. Tells her husband, not only do I not love you, but I don't even love our child, our autistic child, JJ. I don't love you or him. And disappears for 58 days. When she's gone, that's when Charles files for divorce and then gets that protection order. And it's crazy because she had threatened to murder him, apparently. He gets the order of protection, and we call it a TRO in Hawaii. And she says she's going to murder him if he gets in the way of her preparations for Christ's second coming in July of 2020. So she's preparing for Christ to come back July 2020, tells him if he gets in the way, he's going to kill her. He gets out the order of protection on JJ and him. So she's not allowed to contact JJ or him. He can't get it on her. Oh, Kai, thank you for the super chat. Man, I appreciate you, bro. That's awesome. You guys are great, man. Thank you. A lot of love in the chat today. Raymond Roos from Mililani. I actually have a good friend named Raymond in Mililani. Randy Kripp, Napili. I got choice words for Chad. Monica says, breaks my heart. Poor Charles tried to save them all. He did, man. He got that TRO. And then because he wanted to save the marriage, he withdraws the TRO. It was a matter of weeks before he's shot dead. Ah, it's crazy. April, May, June, July. So the thing is, Lori's brother shoots him a bunch of times, kills him, claims it's self-defense. Local police close the case. At this point, what's really happened here, right? Like at this point, Chad hasn't killed anybody yet. At this point, the only people who've died have been Joseph Ryan of a heart attack or whatever. Right? No, Joseph Ryan gets attacked in 2007. And then dies in 2018 of a heart attack. So we have one dude dead. Her ex-husband. So when she threatens him, he gets a TRO and then says, I want to work on my marriage, and then he dies. So now we have two husbands murdered. I'm sorry, two husbands. One dies of a heart attack, and the other one shot to death in a self-defense case by her brother, who already tased and threatened to kill a previous husband who ends up dying and does jail for it. So he went to jail for a violent crime and now shoots somebody else, and they close the case on self-defense. Ryan Botello. Aloha, friend. From Kahala, Hawaii. Love Kahala. Nanz says, you think Alex killed the kids and Chad and Lori got rid of them? So that's where my mind goes. You know? I think Lori paid her brother, or just brainwashed her brother, into killing Charles. Or she just played on his emotions. Remember, she knew that he had already tased and threatened one husband, who dies later of a heart attack, and then shoots another husband. Remember, both of those dudes, he claimed that both of those dudes were abusing her. So I wonder if she just knew, based on the first husband, when she told him he's abusive to me and the kids, he tases him and goes to jail. So she knows that works. So with Charles, she says he's abusing me and the kids. Charles goes to confront him, gets hit in the head with a bat, and then shoots him to death. So the motive for both of those attacks on her previous husbands was that they were abusive to her. Now, could they have been abusive? I don't know. Yeah, they could have. I don't know. But it seems like that's the trigger for a husband. That's a trigger for her brother to kill them. Now, the chances that both of them were abusive is low. But I don't know how low, right? They are the same kind of dudes. And with codependency, oftentimes one person in a relationship is attracted to someone that brings that kind of drama or abuse. That's what codependency is. They end up getting addicted to that, to being needed and wanting to rehab them and fix them and all that other stuff. So it's possible they really were both abusive. But how convenient that they're abusive. You know what I mean? So on best case scenario is they were abusive, but either way they died. Worst case scenario, they weren't abusive at all, and she just said that because her crazy brother would kill him. And I don't know if he's just being a good brother or if he's off. You know what I mean? But she would know that about her brother. And it is suspicious because, come on, 2 husbands? You tase one, he dies, and then kill the other one? For the same reason? Man. So, we got Charles dead. So 2 husbands dead. 2 of 4. Lori ends up telling Charles' sons from another marriage that he dies via text message. They're asking her and questioning her on his cause of death, and she just dodges their questions. This is where things get obvious. When she doesn't tell the family, they get a hold of her, start questioning her, what's going on? She says he's dead. They're like, what happened? And she starts dodging questions. This is when it all starts falling apart. This was July 12th. So she never even calls to tell the family that he died. He dies on the 11th. She doesn't even notify them. On the 12th, shoots him a text that he dies. They start sweating her, and then she dodges questions. The next day, after Charles Vallow's death, Lori learns that her late husband had changed the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance from Lori to his sister, Kay Woodcock, who is also JJ's paternal grandma. Wow. I did not know that. I didn't even read this one yet. So the day after he dies, she finds out that he had recently, probably when she dipped out for 58 days, changed his $1 million life insurance policy to his sister, Kay Woodcock, who happens to be the grandma of JJ, the paternal, the grandma on the dad's side. That's crazy. Nanz says Alex was described as mentally off by the nephew. Jap Soul, what's up? Aloha. Thanks for coming through. Glad you're here. Scott says the whole zombie thing was BS. She just said anything to get her way, yeah. Vernon Angbino. They were doomsday believers, and the only doom was those who asked questions where the kids were. The brother was played and died for his efforts. Yeah. The one big question I have is, how does a wife suddenly die without having her autopsied? Everyone's got that question, Vernon. My wife had that question too. In Honolulu, you get one if it's unattended. If a doctor doesn't sign off on it, and there's no way a doctor signed off on these deaths. So I don't know how that works, man. I don't know how you can just refuse a autopsy on your wife. You're the main suspect on every murder. If a wife gets killed or dies mysteriously in her bed in the house, the husband's there, he's the suspect. And then he gets to decide she doesn't get an autopsy? What kind of podunk crazy situation is that? I just don't understand how that's real. How is that possible? Nanz says, thank God Chad didn't cremate his wife. You're right about that. This case is wild, Ryan. High Life 808 said, what about the police shooting of the 16-year-old boy and how police shot him in the back of the head? I think we suspected that they'd shot him in the back of the head because the officers shooting were from behind the car. That wasn't a surprise. The officers were behind the car when they were shooting. We saw that on the video. So we know that that was probably what was going to happen. But it's not like it was point blank. The media is getting crazy with that, calling it an execution just because the bullets hit the back of the head. That's crazy. But we will talk about that. I'll get that at the end of the video because that just came up when I was preparing for this live. Monica said, how much can you tell us about Tammy and the kids' autopsies? I'm looking for the heart attack poisons. Joseph, Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. So all I know is they still haven't released it. And this was complete. They have come to a conclusion in February of this year, and they have not released the evidence. So we don't know yet. It's not been released. But they know because they have conclusive evidence from the autopsy. And they're probably keeping it hush because they're probably sweating Chad and Lori. High Life 808. I'll get to those when I'm done with this. Callie Connect says, Monica, unknown that Tammy and Alex both had pink foam coming from their mouth when they died. Wow. I wonder how they know that. Vernon says, all comes down to greed from the life insurance policies she stood to benefit from. Only her ex-husband changed his will and made his sister the beneficiary. Here's the thing, though. Chad Daybell, he had 2 insurance policies on his wife, and he got paid out on both of them. And that's what they ended up using to arrest him. Because remember, they didn't have enough evidence to get him on murder of his wife. So they hooked him up on the fraud from the life insurance policies. Then they exhumed the body and finished the autopsy. So now they can get him on murder or whatever. They're going to sweat him for that. But that's what they needed to get him arrested. It's all for money. Isn't that crazy? I think it's probably for money. Honestly, it was probably mostly for money. And he had that chick brainwashed. And she was off, I'm sure. Sure, she's mentally off. I think you got to be mentally unwell to kill anybody that's when you're not in a crime of passion. I don't know. I just hope it was quick, man. I really do hope that those kids died fast. Because there's nothing that breaks my heart more. And I hope they didn't know it was their mom. You know what I mean? Callie Connect says, I know this sounds crazy, but if you look up the gemstone and the wedding ring Lori bought for her and Chad's wedding, that gemstone is poisonous when put in water. Wow. I'm going to look into that. Jap Soul said, did you find any info about the Kaka'ako shooting that I asked about in the last video you posted? Yes, I did look into the Kaka'ako shooting. And I couldn't find anything about it. It's when those two, the Lee boys, were shooting at each other in the condo, and they almost hit a 4-year-old child running around in the hallway. But I don't know anything about that. I tried to find it, and you're right. It does seem like they're silent on it. Nanz thinks that it's all Lori's ideas. I wonder. Could have been, could have been that she was just so enamored and obsessed with Chad that she wanted a life with him in a future, and they wanted all this money and go live their life. And, he was down for the cause. It's just sick, man. Because he probably poisoned her, you know what I mean? Nan said she had insurance on Charles too, right? Yeah, she had insurance, but he essentially had switched it. He had changed the beneficiary. So Kay Woodcock, who is the paternal grandma, who's also the one that sent cops for the welfare check. You remember that one from the last video I did? She called the cops and said, I haven't talked to my grandson. I want to know what's going on. Can you go do a welfare check? They show up at the house. Lori says, he's not here. They're in Arizona with family. They probably called Kay Woodcock and were like, they told us that they have family in Arizona and he's with them. And she's probably like, there's no family in Arizona with him. So that next day, the police and the FBI raid the house. She's gone. She had moved out the night before, as confirmed by a neighbor. So it says August 10th was the last time that Larry and Kay Woodcock spoke with JJ on the phone. And then 20 days later, less than 3 weeks, Lori returns JJ's service dog. So he had a service dog for his autism. She returns it, citing a change in life circumstance. Oh, that is so creepy. Like, why would she return the dog? They're going to be like, why are you returning the dog? He needs the dog. No one ever returns dogs. Why would she call and say, I'm going to homeschool JJ and then kill him? It's crazy that she did that. It's insane. Vernon says, my gut feeling is this. He didn't want the kids around. He wanted a new life with no kids. She could have wanted that too. That's for sure. She could have wanted that too, man. Ugh. It's so brutal. That's her daughter. Like, she gave birth to that child. And then I think she faked all that letters to Colby Ryan. That makes the most sense. That makes the most sense to me. Nanz says, because these pre-hits by Lori for her exes then meets Chad. Yep. Vernon says she's evil, not mentally off. She's probably both, bro. Callie Connect says Tammy's own children commented on the pink foam, and so did Alex's wife's son. Both were present for their deaths. So you're saying that has something to do with like a chemical, or that they were poisoned, probably? Tony Benson Mahuka says that's where evil comes from. It's all about the money. So sad for the kids. They are the innocent ones. Isn't that sad? It just breaks my heart. Poor babies. It's crazy that they were in Hawaii. It's crazy that they lived in Hawaii, moved back to Arizona, and then they get married in Hawaii. Chad and Lori get married in Hawaii, and then kill the kids and move to Hawaii, trying to live their life away from the kids. Scott Reynolds says she was already evil before meeting Chad. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Especially if the one husband was already dead from his heart attack or whatever. So if that was a murder, then you're right. Kelly Connect says she transferred the kids' survivor benefits from their father's deaths to her bank account after the children were already missing. Dang. So she transferred the kid's survivor benefits from Charles to her bank account. Yeah. And then they got her on those charges as well. That's how they were able to hold her. But it was like $5 million bail initially. Nanz says the cult leader found mummified in Colorado. The cult that got kicked out of Big Island of Kauai. Yeah. I forget what that was called, but there was that one chick that was a cult leader and they all like worshipped her or whatever. And then they found her mummified in Colorado as like a shrine. They had like Christmas lights and all this stuff on her. That wasn't the same one, obviously, because it wasn't like a Latter-day Saints cult. It was like a New Age cult. Brian says, Awe. To think any amount of money was worth them committing these crimes. It's crazy, right? Man. But what is it? The love of money is the root of all evil. I just have a hard time thinking it's money. Maybe for Chad it was money with his wife. But I think it's also them wanting to be together. I feel like this was like a multi-faceted issue. I could be wrong. Lay says, and had her daughter dismembered. I didn't know they were dismembered. That would be crazy. And you know it was probably her brother Alex. And Vernon says her daughter was more of a mother to JJ than she was. That was the account everyone said. She really took care of JJ. Monica says Charles knew and he figured it out. So very sad. Maybe he was just a loose end. Nanz says was the same guys. Wow, man, I didn't know that. I'm going to look that up. That's a trip. If that was, that's a trip. Vernon says, you knew Chad was guilty when he was near the spot while police were digging his property. Yeah. Then they found him in the pet cemetery. Remember that? It was supposedly a pet cemetery on his property where they found the bodies. Nathan says, super pretty girls almost always get away with the most, and some push everything to the extreme. She definitely, you could see in the photos, like she tries to use her smile and her attitude. When you watch the videos when she was walking around in Kauai when people were following her, she tried to be like charming and attractive, and it was so gross to watch because everyone knew it. We all knew. As soon as you heard it on the news, think back, and as soon as you heard it, you knew she killed those kids or had something to do with them. What's she doing in Hawaii? Her kids are missing, and then she won't tell the cops? You knew that she had something to do with it. Right away. Yeah, Scott says it's sad that it got so far along. These were really stupid and easy to figure out crimes. How they got so far along before authorities took action is crazy. That's what boggles my mind, that they got away with this stuff. And looking back at it, we're like, wait a minute, what? You buried that woman without an autopsy who died of natural causes? A mother of 5 by this douchebag, Chad Daybell? It's crazy. Nanz says, yeah, the kids' autopsies were egregious. I didn't see anything about them. I know that they were burned. I know that they found it in parts. and then buried. You know how long it took for him to process those bodies? Kimmy says, I'm sorry, but she ain't all that. Ryan makes a good point. It's that forbidden love. It's attractive. You know what I mean? Like, because think about it, look at him. Look at her. It's not like two models. But they were in love. And they couldn't be together. So they ex their husband and wife, get the money and go live off in an island somewhere. And Vernon makes a good point. She takes advantage of gullible people. We do know she did that because she took advantage of her brother Alex, which we know. And I mean, think about how much she got Alex involved. He tases one husband, threatens to kill him, goes to jail for it, doesn't learn anything, and then shoots another husband. And then he's there when they last see Lori, or when they last see JJ and Tylee. And then he helps them move the stuff out of the locker. Remember, they had like a locker that they would keep the kids' stuff in. They moved the stuff out of the locker before they skipped town. So we know she was manipulating Alex. He's probably evil too. It's just a trip, man. So if she could do something like that to one dude, and then it's weird because it's like a mutual thing with her and Chad, because Chad first like mesmerizes her. Remember when they meet at that convention and preparing a people, and he tells her that they were married, that he's some being of light that lived 21 lifetimes, 5 of them on this earth, and during that time she was also on this earth. So he like kind of puts her in a trance. She falls in love with him, gets all excited, and gets obsessed with his books and this new purpose she has. And then starts telling him what to do. And he just wants it. It's just... this is definitely going to be a movie. Tony says, doesn't matter how they killed those kids. They wanted money, love, and no responsibility. Nanz says they wanted lots of evidence. They had to take their time prosecuting. Yep. Kelly Connect, prayers for the detectives and medical examiners that had witnessed. Can you imagine? Can you imagine they're digging and they find those bodies of those... and it was not long enough for those just to be bones. So it was, if they were just bones, it was because they were burned. Straight out of law. Sup, Doug? Thanks for coming through. I'm glad you came out. Brendan Abrams. What's up, bro? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming to the chat. Appreciate you, bro. You're trying to survive out there in Oahu. Kimmy says, yeah, probably in hell 21 lifetimes. They deserve it. She probably told Alex she paid him with the money she thought she was getting. It's a good point. And it'd be interesting to see if her other husbands had life insurance and that he told them about that too. That you kill my husband, I'll give you half the life insurance. That makes sense. That's a good point. Brennan says yes, and that in that locker they showed one day they removed a rolled up carpet with something bulky in the rug. Wow. Brendan Abrams said, between that and that weird Love Has One cult we got here that left. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had a couple cults. Remember? There was a couple of them. There was that one cult looked like it was all white folks. And then there was one cult looked like it was all black folks. And both of them came to Hawaii, and I think both of them left. It's amazing what Instagram does, because I swear the reason they left is because they got all that hate from Instagram, because Hungry Hungry Hawaiian and all those curated Instagram feeds. As soon as everybody knew they were there, they started getting hated on. And then the cops get involved, right? Because they were doing something. Oh, because it was COVID, which is why they went there. So during COVID, they were breaking COVID rules, and then they got sent out. They got sent away. Do you guys remember that? Rob Foster, what's up, man? Crazy how after she got arrested here on Kauai and then went back home when she should have run, he was like, they won't find the bodies. I know. Straight Out Aloha says, what happened? I just did a video on the Doomsday couple murders with all the facts involved, and then this is our discussion video. She got deemed unable to stand trial, so she's not going to get trial, at least for right now. Kimmy says, didn't she involve her niece or cousin too? I don't know. All I know is Alex. That'd be crazy if she had like another, because she's manipulative. I can see her doing that. Sheldon Bernabe says, yes, Monica says, I thought it was a seat removed from the Jeep for the hit on niece's husband, Brandon. What? I don't even know about that. You guys got all the details. Man. Didn't they move the bodies before it was discovered on Chad's property, Brennan said? I don't know, but apparently when they moved all that stuff out of the children's locker, there was a rolled up carpet. Maybe that was in there. I don't know. And then you wonder, did they kill both kids at the same time, or did they kill one and then kill the other one later, right? And it seems like you would kill Tylee first because your autistic boy is going to have a harder time articulating what happened if he saw it or missing his sister. And remember, she was last heard from first. So we know that people talked to JJ after Tylee was missing. So it makes the most sense to me that Tylee would be the one that was missing first. That's what the timeline says, you know? Kelly Connect says, yes, she involved her niece whose husband had an attempt made on his life. He was shot at. Wow. Wow, I gotta check out the niece. Man, it's so sad. It's crazy. So remember, August 30th, Lori returns JJ's service dog, citing a change in life circumstance. In September, a month later, Lori with Tylee and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho to be with Chad Daybell. So now Lori moves in with Chad Daybell to Rexburg. His wife's dead, her husband's dead. That month, within 8 days, Tylee goes missing. September 8th, she's last seen in Yellowstone National Park. 2 weeks later, JJ is last seen at his school. at his new school, Kennedy Elementary in Rexburg, Idaho. So she just enrolls him in school. He's been there like 2 weeks. And then she calls and says, I'm going to homeschool, and pulls him out. That's suspicious in itself. So he goes to school on the 23rd. And on the 24th, she calls and says he'll no longer be attending. 1 week later, she rents a storage locker in Rexburg. And then all the children's stuff are later found there. So a week after, all the kids' stuff gets put away, which means they're dead at that point. Because if you're throwing all the kids' clothes and whatever in a locker, they don't need them anymore. So he's last seen on the 23rd, and on the 1st, she rents the locker. So there you go. My guess is he was killed on the 23rd or 24th. So here it is. On October 2nd, Brandon Boudreaux, Lori Vallow's nephew-in-law, is the target of a failed drive-by shooting in Gilbert, Arizona by someone driving a green Jeep Cherokee, still registered to Charles Vallow. So this car is still registered to Charles. Brandon Boudreaux, her nephew-in-law, is the victim in a drive-by shooting that fails in Arizona. The person who tries to kill him is driving a green Jeep Cherokee still registered to Charles Vallow. That's crazy. Her dead husband, who she murdered, has a Jeep Cherokee still registered to him. That Jeep Cherokee does a drive-by trying to kill her nephew-in-law. A week later, October 9th, Tammy Daybell calls police after a masked assailant attempted to shoot her in her garage with what she thought was a paintball gun. That's insane. That is insane, man. So Rob says, so that's why the husband went home to move the bodies or just burn them. Melanie Boudreaux was the niece. She was giving all the kids' toys away in the neighborhood. Scott says, if I remember right, Lori's brother's phone GPS was seen at the burial site that day for hours, and also Chad made a call to his ex saying he was burning some large animals in a pet cemetery. Burning large animals in a pet cemetery. So, October 19th, 10 days later, Tammy's found dead in her home in Salem, Idaho, 5 miles away from Rexburg. The death was initially ruled to be due to natural causes, but as of February 11th, 2020, was reopened under a new investigation. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, believed to be seen on video security footage using Lori's storage unit numerous times during this period, usually alone. So there you go. You got Alex Cox moving stuff in and out of Lori's storage locker by himself. And the last day of October, on Halloween or the day after Halloween, Alex Cox and Lori's niece, Melanie Boudreaux, reportedly seen by Melanie's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux, packing up in Chandler, Arizona, before driving up to Rexburg and discarding children's items on the curb. Some of the information comes from a private investigator hired by Brandon Boudreaux after the October 2nd shooting. So he gets shot at and hires a investigator who watches them do this. November 4th, Alex Cox and Melanie Boudreaux arrive in Rexburg. November 5th, Lori Vallow marries Chad Daybell in Hawaii. 3 weeks later, On November 26, Rexburg Police Department conducts a well-being check on JJ. Lori claims he's with relatives in Arizona, and Tylee is away at Brigham Young University in Idaho. The very next day, Chad and Lori are seen packing. They abandon everything in Rexburg, including the contents of the storage unit, and disappear until found in Kauai in late January. That same day, Rexburg police search for the children to no avail with search warrants to the 3 apartments of Lori Vallow Daybell, Alex Cox, and Melanie Boudreau. 2 days later, Alex Cox marries Zulema Pastains of Gilbert, Arizona in Las Vegas. The next day, newly divorced Melanie Boudreau marries Ian Pawlowski of Rexburg in Las Vegas 1 day after Alex Cox, who's Melanie's uncle, wed Zulema Pastains. Cox legally changes his names to Alex Pastains just before his marriage. That's crazy. The next day, December 11th, authorities now decide to further investigate the death of Tammy Daybell. The day after that, Alex Cox dies in Gilbert, Arizona. A 911 call is made by someone who identifies Alex as their mother's boyfriend and to report his collapse in the bathroom of the home of his new wife, Zulema Pastains. His death is later attributed by autopsy to natural causes, blood clots, and high blood pressure. A week later, Rexburg Police Department officially announced an investigation into the disappearance of Tylee and JJ. January 3rd, so 2 weeks later, Rexburg Police Department and FBI search Chad and Tammy's former home in Idaho. Three weeks later, they locate Chad and Lori in Kauai and serve Lori with court order requiring her to produce the children within 5 days. I remember when this happened. 5 days later, Lori misses court-ordered deadline to produce JJ and Tylee. 10 days later, CBS News reports police found Tylee's cell phone with Lori's belongings in Hawaii. So they found Lori with Tylee's cell phone. Remember, she had been texting Colby Ryan that she loved him and was putting money in his account, his Venmo or whatever. February 20th, 10 days later, Lori Vallow was arrested in Kauai and charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children. 4 days later, in child custody court documents, Brandon Boudreau said that Ian Pawlowski told law enforcement that Melanie conspired with her uncle Alex Cox to kill Brandon. Brandon also alleges in these papers that police are investigating Melanie's role in the disappearances of the children, as well as Brandon's shooting. 2 days later, in extradition hearing, judge refuses to lower Lori's $5 million bail. She remains incarcerated in Kauai awaiting extradition to Idaho. Two weeks later, in the first hearing after being extradited from Hawaii to Idaho, court lowers bail from $5 million to $1 million. 3 days later, Lori remains in jail, and some of the local bail bond companies reportedly refuse to assist her. Good on them. Dog would have bailed her out. June 9, 2020. Human remains were found on Chad Daybell's property in Salem, Idaho. Daybell was arrested later that day. He is being charged with 2 felony counts of destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence, and he is currently being held in the Fremont County Jail. The next day, Kay Woodcock, the biological grandma of JJ Vallow, announces that one of the sets of human remains belongs to JJ. The Ryan family confirmed that the second set of remains belonged to Tylee Ryan. 3 days later, authorities confirm it in the media. And then just over 2 weeks later, police execute another search warrant of the home of Chad Daybell. On July 17, 2020, Lori Daybell's jury trial was set in Madison County for January 25th on 3 misdemeanor charges. But 2 weeks later, it is reported that Chandler, Arizona police are planning to file a conspiracy to commit murder charges against Lori Daybell for the death of Charles Vallow. So they caught on already. And then 2 weeks later, Chad Daybell pleads not guilty to all 4 of his felony counts against him. And then now we're in this year, January 11th, 2020. Chad Daybell's trial scheduled to begin on January 11th. On January 25th, Lori Vallow's trial for the misdemeanor charges was scheduled to begin, but it didn't happen. So on March 22nd, 2020, scheduled court date for Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Their cases have been merged and their team has moved to dismiss the charges and obtain change of venue. They are charged with murder on May 25th, 2021. And on May 27th, Lori Vallow is deemed incompetent and unfit to stand trial. Ugh. Toffee Sow, what's up, bro? You out driving truck today? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. Always showing love in the chat with that super chat. Hope you're driving safe. Appreciate you, man. Ryan says, yeah, it seems the more I learn, the darker it gets. Zulema seems creepy too. What if she's the actual leader? Everything is focused on Lori and Chad to steer away from the top of the chain. Who knows? Nanz says, family mentions her going temple every day for work. You don't get paid doing temple work. She was busy having affair. No going temple. Temple, no pay bills. She's greedy. Yep. Toffee said, nah, just got back. Yes, thank you, brother. Good for you, man. Just doing daily hauls, yeah? Do you do multi-day hauls? Toffee, you're on the mainland, right? What's up, Dylan? I have a friend who drives truck in Utah. How crazy is that now that I think about it? I never talk about Utah, and then this case comes up, and I'm talking about Utah. I have a friend who drives truck in Utah. Right outside Salt Lake. I mean, he goes to other states too, but I forget who he drives for. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you for that. Glad you could make it out. So, looking back, all the red flags were there. Everything that happened was a red flag. It just seems so crazy that they were able to just fool so many people. I'm going to put some links in the chat. Here's some of the links to the articles. If you guys want to click them. There's even a wiki about the deaths and a timeline in that Wikipedia. That was probably the most helpful. That timeline that I read off of was from that wiki. I just put it. It's that last comment in the live chat. If you guys want to look into it. Toppy said, a lot of locals drive up here. Vernon Angbino. Well, I'm out of here. First time chatting on your website. Good night, people. Stay safe. Mahalos, Vernon. Thank you, man. Be safe. Man, what a trip. So we're going to watch this case. I'll stay followed up on it. I mean, that's what we do. We go over cases that involve Hawaii, and this one involved Hawaii. So it just so happens to be like a national case that's even on global news. That's sad, man. Sad to think those kids lived on Kauai. You know? Sad that those kids that were murdered were in the islands. before they died. And you see that wedding photo with them like dancing together, all happy, smiles, all love? Oh. That's a sad one. So we're going to stay watching that case, and hopefully she goes to trial soon and they get found guilty. Apparently Chad Daybell was like a big dude in the book world, in the Mormon book world. I wonder how he switched from Mormonism into that cult. You know what I mean? Like, he went from probably mainstream Latter-day Saints, like, you know, mainstream LDS theology, and then he jumps into whatever they were doing. It's a big jump. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. We hit an hour and 6 minutes, so I'm going to cut it off. And I will catch you guys on the next one, okay? Mahalos. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.